Let's talk to Ricardo Evangelista. I actually pronounced his surname right for a change. He is from Activ Trades. Happy New Year to you, Ricardo.
Happy New Year, Nick. Nice to see you again.
And to you. Right, foreign exchange. Let's kick off. Everyone's come on the show and said 140 was the level in cable. The sellers would come in, barrier options, lots of interest at that level, psychological round number. We're trading above 142 this morning. Everyone told me on the dollar yen currency pair, 110 was a key support level. We're now trading at 109. And the euro against the US dollar, this time last year, everyone, when it was at 103, was saying if this was the parity trade. It was only a question of hours, if not days, we were going to parity, and we're up at 123. In terms of being a foreign exchange strategist, it must be very difficult at the moment, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely right, Nick. The scenario has changed. There's a number of factors that have contributed to that. We have, on one hand, better than expected performance in the Eurozone. We have a more positive mood regarding the possible outcome of Brexit negotiations and the terms under which the exit will be processed. So that's been giving the pound a good push and making investors feel more optimistic and so buying assets denominated in pounds and backing in the pound. Same with the euro, good performance. Some of the political dark clouds that were looming in the horizon this time last year with the election in France, in Austria as well, in Holland,
yep.
didn't actually come to be as threatening as everybody expected. In fact, the game was flipped on its head with President Macron emerging as the de facto EU leader since Chancellor Merkel lost some political capital after the last election there, and he's definitely very keen in promoting European values and is seen as someone who can actually push the European strengthening agenda forward. Last but not least, we have the situation in America. President Trump has a political agenda that revolves around protectionist policies for the economy. So we've seen recently with imposing of tariffs on the imports of things like washing machines, solar panels, which is interesting, pulling out of the Paris Agreement for climate change, and now saying that it is in the American interest that the dollar remains weak or gets weaker even. So all of these changes underpin the dramatic change in scenario that you highlighted there compared to where we were a year ago, talking about parity between the euro and the dollar.
Yep.
Today we're talking about something completely different, and for the pound as well, it was all doom and gloom last year.
Well, to be fair, only 2 months ago, people were telling me when cable was at 120, it was a parity trade. Particularly the technical analysts were saying that we're sellers for choice. This is going to parity, and suddenly everyone's now thinking along the lines of Nomura that we're going to 148 for a year end.
It is a possibility, maybe not as much as that, but it's a possibility. It will depend on the negotiations, the progress, the Brexit negotiations. The mood is definitely lighter than it was a few months ago, but above all, it will depend on what happens on the other side of the Atlantic and the American policies, how they unfold. So yesterday we had the Secretary of Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, advocating for a weaker dollar. So this is quite a statement coming from who it comes. And today we're going to have the speech of President Trump at Davos. Is also expected to defend more protectionism rather than an open economic policy. We understand why he does that, because he was elected on a populist agenda. So American jobs for American people, whatever is these statements reverberate very strongly within the Rust Belt in America. Whether or not in the long term these measures will contribute to a positive outcome for the American economy as a whole is a different story. But in the short term, we are likely to keep witnessing these sort of statements and manoeuvring to try to weaken the dollar.
Okay, so in terms of high conviction, in terms of any currency pair at this point in time, which way would you be?
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult for me to give advice,
Yeah.
especially on the record. I mean, I would say that the current dynamic is likely to continue.
Right.
So we probably see that the pound will consolidate at the current levels, especially against the dollar, and potentially gain more ground. Against the euro, the situation is perhaps less clear because we had on Sunday President Macron hinting at the possibility of a tailor-made outcome for Britain. That wouldn't be Canada or Norway, would be something in between, and that gave the pound a big boost. But who knows what he's going to say next week? And that's if he says something going in the opposite direction, the impact on the pound would be detrimental. So we could very easily see a movement in the opposite direction. So the pound less clear. The dollar, you know, the political echoes and the voices are all backing a weaker dollar. So wouldn't surprise me.
So the trend is your friend, don't buck the trend for now.
The trend is your friend, okay. Exactly, in this
Finally,
case.
quantitative easing. When I went to school, I'd never read that in the economics books. How do you think this is going to play out into the summer?
Well, the expectation is that the European Central Bank, and we have a meeting later today, which is likely to be interesting in terms of what Mario Draghi is going to say. But the expectation is pretty much on slowing down and an eventual eventually discontinuing this policy of stimulus to the economy. So this is likely to once again back the euro, and so we can see maybe the euro gaining more ground, especially against the dollar. As I said, against the pound, there are political variables that will play into it as well, so less clear there. But I think the policy has been going for a long time now. The US and the UK have taken steps to stop those policies, to reduce them. The European Central Bank took some steps, but it was give and take, so it reduced the level, but extended the calendar for the policy to continue. But I think very soon we will see a reduction, if not a complete standstill, in terms of keeping these policies up.
Ricardo, as always, thank you very much indeed for your time.
My pleasure.